Somewhere.
7th of March, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos, Megilas Esther.
Good morning, this is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here at Yeshiva Salmanashi. So we're going to be continuing with our Megilas Esther. I'm going to put this on the screen. If you let me do this screen sharing, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay, great. As we're getting started, I'll just like to mention I got a call from Rabbi Furman last night. It's his forum today out there in Telstone. So he was mentioning that being forum that we all have very good causes to contribute to, and was just asking me to remind everybody that he works very hard for the yeshiva to keep things running and keep everything going. And so if you have not necessarily time today, but he's working hard to raise money for the yeshiva. So every little bit helps, as they say. He's doing a lot of work. His wife also is Rebbitzin, works hard to keep things, the financial things moving. And I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking on behalf of Rabbi Furman for the yeshiva in general. That he puts a lot of effort into things. And, he's really going beyond the call of duty and doing a lot of things for all of us and keeping the yeshiva going. And so any contributions you could make to the yeshiva will be certainly very well and happily received by Rabbi Furman. So keep that in mind. And, not necessarily for Purim, but all throughout the whole year as well. So, okay, just to mention that. Yeah, where do we leave off in the Megilah yesterday? I think we're in the 6th parak, if I'm not mistaken.
My bookmark is at the beginning of the 7th.
Okay, okay, good. So actually the 7th.
We just did the one where they while he was still speaking, they came and took him to the party.
Right. Okay. So I have to get another document. Okay, so we'll work without the screen saving right now because I have the screen share because I have to get another document. Okay, so let's begin there. Let's start again now with the 7th parak. Go ahead.
Okay, should I read?
Unless Roy would like to read.
Vayavo Hamelech v'Haman lishtos im Esther Hamalka. And the king and Haman came to drink with Queen Esther. So says the king. I don't know what the significance of that is.
Well, I'm not sure. What's your question, though?
The fact that it doesn't say King Achashverosh, is there some significance?
Could be. I'm not sure. Again, there's a rule that it doesn't say every time the word Hamelech appears, it's referring to Kohen Baruch. But sometimes perhaps not. So,
Right.
So here, since it's mentioned along with Haman, you probably don't have to, it's probably referring to Achashverosh.
Right.
I don't think.
Okay. Weiter?
Sure.
Vayomer Hamelech leEsther gam vayom hasheni b'mishtei hayayin ma she'ela seich Esther Hamalka v'si na sein lach uma kashasech ad chatzi hamalchus v'teas, the seas. The king said to Esther again on the second day, at the feast at the wine feast, what is your wish, at Queen Esther? It shall be given to you. And what is your request? Up until half the kingdom, it shall be done.
Now, just want to ask a question. And this is in general, when you're reading Sukkim, you're reading anything in Tanakh, right? So there are many times the Torah Kadosh, Sivim, Nevi'im quotes various statements made by various different people, right? And we should realize that most likely that much more was said recorded in the actual Sukkim, right?
Right.
Because just take this statement here. I mean, Esther's making the Mishnah, and there's this one statement Achashverosh. Now, I think we can easily imagine that there was probably more said at the Mishnah than just what's being recorded here in the Megilah. Is that true?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. So we should, keep that in mind, that the psukim which are written into the Megillah, these are the crucial psukim which we're supposed to learn and know about, that teach us about the things we are supposed to be revealed to us. But obviously, they were obviously having some kind of discussions before and after this, right? But this is probably was the lead up. But whatever they were doing and discussing up until this point, this was the final purpose of Achashverosh. He's trying to figure out what's going on here. One party and another party, and okay, enough eating, Persian delicacies and drinking wine. What's Esther got up her sleeve over here, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what did Esther say?
Vatan Esther Hamalka Batomar im Matzasi Chen Beinecha Hamelech Ve'im al Hamelech Tov Ti Nasen Li Nafshi Bish E Lasi Va'ami Be Vakashasi Ki Nim Karnu Ani Va'ami Lahashmid Laharog Ula Abeid Ve'ilu La'avadim Ve'lish Fachos Nim Karnu Hecherashti Ein Hatzar Shoveh B'nezek Hamelech. Okay, so Queen Esther replied and said, if I have found favor in the eyes of the king, and if the king finds it good to give to me my life as my request, and my nation as my request, as my wish or request, because I and my people have been sold to be destroyed and to be murdered and exterminated. And if I would have remained silent, um, the suffering would then not be equal to the king's loss. I'm reading the English because the the Hebrew is eluding me.
Right. So again, Khan Esther Malcolm answered Esther Malcolm, told me, if I found grace in the eyes of the king, Alamelech Toiv, Nitin Li, if it was good for him should bestow upon me, Nafshi, Nafshi should bestow upon, give me my life. Michelle, see, that's what I'm asking for my life, for me, because you see, and for my people's, and I'm seeking the life of my people as well. As it says, because it's ki nimkaru, aniva mi lashmi la because I and my people have been sold to be destroyed and killed, la'abed, annihilated. Ve'ilu la'avadim v'shivkos timkorenu charashti. If it would be that I would be for slaves and maidservants, that they would be sold. And if it was that, I would be quiet. And if it was just for the fact, if you were selling your slaves and maidservants into annihilation, so I would be karashte, I would be quiet. He ain't Hatzar Shava and Nezikamilla, because that the loss of that would not be worthwhile to the king. That, as Rashi says, in any choshish benezik amelech, I wouldn't be concerned about the loss that the king would suffer. She'ilu rodaf acher anaska hayelo lomer mochor osam avodim b'shivchos v'kibul momono. That it, I'm not. She's saying here that she's not concerned about the fact that the Jews are being sold. Meaning, if the Jews were being sold and they were going to be sold to be slaves and maidservants, so that wouldn't bother her so much. Right? That wouldn't bother her so much.
That's kind of funny the way she words that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't have said all that about the slaves. I would have just said, we've been sold to be exterminated, destroyed, annihilated, period. What's she adding by saying, if we had been enslaved, I wouldn't have said anything?
I think that that's part of her the argument she's trying to make for the king. And she's not trying to make a she's pleading for her life and the life of her nation, meaning really she's saying to the king, you really can do anything you want with us. Right? You're the king, we're your subjects. You want to sell us, be exterminated. That's your right, you're the king. Right? So saying it straightly, clearly, she's simply asking for mercy that she should be allowed to live, right? Which is an important perspective in her argument to try and save herself. She's trying to say, look, we're your servants. If you had chosen to sell us into slavery, okay, I wouldn't have anything to say. It wouldn't concern me so much. But simply, we're asking for your mercy to allow us to live. So what did the king say?
Okay, let's see. Vayomer Hamelech Achashverosh, Vayomer Esther Hamalka, Mihu Zeh ve'ezehu, Asher Milao Libo La'asos Chen. And King Achashverosh said, okay, so it says Vayomer twice, and my English says exclaimed. He said and he exclaimed to Esther, the queen, who is it? Who is this? And which one is this? Who would fill his heart to do such a thing?
Yeah, who's a man who Hashem Malo fill his many heart. Heart really means mind. Who thought to do such a thing like this?
Now that is very bizarre because he knows very well who it is. He knows very well what's going on. He just signed the decree. He knows it's Haman and knows what Haman is trying to kill the Jews.
Maybe not.
Really? Why not? Why not?
It says here, Haman. Oh, where am I going now? Oh, right, here we are. Sorry. The commentators differ. Asparuh obviously hasn't forgotten his grant to Haman. Why did he ask for identification of the adversary? The commentators differ. Some say that when Haman originally asked the king to issue the decree of annihilation, he never identified the Jewish people as the intended victims, and so as his ignorance when Esther made a veiled reference to Haman. Other commentators say that at this point, Ahasuerus still did not realize that she was a Jewess, and he did not know to what she referred. Others say that Ahasuerus had never given Haman permission, to annihilate them, merely to do with it as you see fit. That means to do what is good for the country. Of course, Haman obviously did not follow. So you got some various opinions.
I see, very good.
Yeah.
So in other words, he doesn't really know that she's Jewish. She just said people.
Maybe at this point.
That's probably according to all opinions, because he was told not to tell. Right, Mordecai instructed him not to tell, and we probably can assume he still didn't know that she was actually Jewish.
Right.
But The question is why, if that's the case, but still, why didn't you put two and two together? Right? As you asked, Roy, who just a couple of days ago, he gave over the king's ring to Haman to do what he wants, right?
Well, as far as has been described back here somewhere, I don't know where, as not being all that bright.
Well, okay. I mean, that
I've heard that before, that he wasn't that bright, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because there's one opinion that says that he was not of royal birth, and he somehow managed to become the ruler of the world. That takes a lot of seichel, a lot of
Money.
well, money, yeah, that's true. But it takes a lot of wheeling and dealing, a lot of bargaining and negotiating and convincing. You got to be on the top of your game, I think, to have done that. And even if he was of royal birth, still there's a lot of competition at the top, and I can't envision him as being stupid.
Maybe had people helping him, giving him advice, and he just took it, and their advice was really good.
Yeah, well, that's true. That could be.
yeah. I mean, look, it's said that even okay, he doesn't look. I don't have to tell you. You can take a look throughout history and even in modern people who are leaders are not necessarily the most genius type people, and not necessarily the most qualified people either, right? But somehow, some way, they get themselves into power, right? So
Hashem.
yeah, that's of course that's obvious. The Kadosh Baruch Hu obviously puts these people into positions, just like Hashem is causing everything to happen. People have whatever they're playing the roles that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is decided for them. But what we can say is that in general, and it's spoken about. This is a spoken a known idea that when it comes to a person's own particular affairs, right? Unless a person is really incapable of taking care of himself, but if a person has the basic kalim, the basic abilities to fend for himself, they have a special ability to take care of their things, which is many times more than what they're actually gifted to do, because simply because they have their self-interest, the closeness of and the immediacy of what they're trying to do, right, gives them the ability to behave and to act in ways that'll make them successful, because they're putting all their interests in themselves, and they realize the immediacy and the great potentials for their success and the lack of success. So therefore, they become geniuses in their own affairs. Whereas towards in the affairs of other people, may not necessarily always be the most bright and sharp of people. So in terms of where getting Ahasuerus, where he got himself to, so obviously he had to be of some type of level of functional success that he can come to be, as you said, to rule the world. But when it comes to things which really are not relevant to himself, so he doesn't put his mind to it. That because the success the person reaps for himself is because the amount of effort that he puts into it, he puts his mind to helping himself. But if he's not going to put his mind to helping others, so he's not going to have that amount of success because he's simply not interested in the same way he's interested for himself. So, yeah, I mean, look, in the life of a king, there's a lot can happen in the life of a king between one day and the next. And we're talking about 2 or 3 days. Right? There's a Rashi in I forget which Masechta. Rashi explains that that the mind of a king is completely different than the mind of other people. The fact that he is in a position of such power makes him functions very differently than other people. So, yeah, but the question is basically a question: why couldn't he imagine that that this was the when he asked? And you could say maybe Pashut Pshat. I mean, Pashut Pshat was that Achashverosh wasn't going to point the finger at Haman, right? So so Esther's going to have to identify him, right? It's like a judge. A judge, you have to. A judge may know what who committed the crime, but it still has to be proven in court. So he may be asking simply in terms of protocol, right? If he can't make an assumption that this is Haman, even though he may have a very strong understanding, not even intuition, but he understood clearly that it was Haman. But nevertheless, he had to ask the question as for protocol. Okay, let's see further.
There's an interesting comment in my Me'am Lo'ez. It says, although Achashverosh hated the Jews, he did not actually tell Haman to exterminate them. He feared God and wanted to have an excuse to retract his decree. Achashverosh hated the Jews only because his fortune tellers had predicted that a Jew would inherit his crown. Upon discovering that Esther was Jewish, he immediately realized that the Jew who would take his crown would be his son from Esther, his rightful heir. His son was Jewish because he had a Jewish mother. Now he realized that the Jews were innocent and his hatred was baseless. He had committed a sin in decreeing the death of the Jews. Esther's gentle words revealing that she was a Jew stirred pangs of guilt inside him.
Okay,
that's something I never heard before.
That could be. There are. I have seen Meforshim that say that the relationship that Achashverosh actually had a very close relationship with Mordecai and actually loved him and favored him very much.
Right.
He certainly knew that Mordecai was a Jew. And you see, that was the case with Nebuchadnezzar and with the Malki Pras. The Malki Pras actually, Daniel and all the other Azariah and Mishael, they were in the court of the kings of Persia. The Persian kings actually valued the Jews, right? There wasn't an outright anti-Semitism that was without cause and without need. I mean, that politically they did what they needed to politically, but not necessarily were they Jew haters, right?
Right.
So yeah, could be. Let's see further.
V'tomer Esther ish tsar v'oyev Haman hara hazeh v'Haman niv as milivnei hamelech v'hamalka. Esther said, a hateful man, an enemy, Haman, the evil Haman, this evil Haman shrank before the king and the queen.
Actually, in reference to what we just said, you should know the Gemara says that when Achashverosh asked, who is this? So actually, Esther was actually going to point her finger at Achashverosh, that he was the one that was causing all this. And Amala came and turned her hand to point to Haman. Right?
No, I heard that.
Yeah, it's a Gemara.
Why would she point at Achashverosh?
Because he was the cause of the tsar. He was the one who was causing the tsar. Right? She realized that he gave the king, he gave the rights of who was the real one who was allowing this to happen. Achashverosh was the real one that was allowing this to happen. Haman was only doing the bidding of the king, right, to a certain extent. He was happy to do but it was Haman had convinced the king that this is what should be done. So actually, Achashverosh was the real culprit here. And if it wasn't for the Malach coming in, directing her hand towards Haman, she could have, that could have been, even though it would have been the truth, but as I say, you're right, but the person can be dead right also, and that could have been the case with Esther.
Mm-hmm.
So, so again, since we don't see these things, you have various different opinions and different ways of looking at it, and there are elements of truth in all of them, obviously. Oh, so how do you look at Haman's reaction? How did Haman react to this after he's been accused?
I've actually got here that he trembled rather than shrank back. They probably do the same thing or same kind of. Well, he was fearful, I suppose.
Didn't seem to defend himself in any way, did he?
No, he was. He reacted as a guilty person would react, except a guilty person would also try and deny.
Mm-hmm.
Did he try and deny next sentence or something? No, I don't know.
Maybe he could have, tried to, he should have said, King, dear King, we have this decree, right? I have your ring, right? Remember, he's wearing.
It was all right.
Excuse me.
You said it was all right for me to do this. That's fine. So,
I guess he was, and didn't he know that answer was coming? What did Haman think? We asked the question. What did Achashverosh think? Did he ask the question? And what did Haman think? Did he think, was he not prepared for the acquisition to be leveled against him?
Probably not. How would he know that Esther Hamilka would know his of course, he issued the decrees. Did he sign his name? Did we say something about that Haman didn't sign his name to the decree?
I don't think so. I think it was signed in the name of the king, right?
Name of the king, yeah.
Signed in the name of the king. Now, Haman had no reason to believe that Esther knew all about these things, because Esther knew these things because what Mordecai had told her, right?
Mm.
And Mordecai knew that from what he was told by Eliyahu, right?
Mm.
So it could be that Haman was completely and rightfully so taken aback because he had no thoughts that, first of all, that Esther was Jewish and the queen would know about his plot, even though it became public knowledge. But I guess he was rightfully so in a state of shock. Okay, let's continue on.
Okay. V'hamelech kam b'chamaluto mi mishtei hayayin el ginas habisan v'haman amad levakesh al nafshe me Esther hamalka ki ra'ah ki chalsa ilav hara me ace hamelech. Okay, so the king got up and he was angry. He got up from the wine party in anger, and he went to the garden, and Haman stood to request his life from Esther, the queen, because he saw it would end for him badly. In the from the time of the king, may Ace Hamelech. He saw that the king was angry, and he was hoping that maybe he could plead with Esther.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what this May Ace Hamelech means.
Mm-hmm. Not sure what Ace Hamelech. What did they?
They say for him with the king, but doesn't Ace mean time?
No, I think that might be with an iron. Hara me'ace, no, Elav hara me'ace. Me'ace means with the king, right? The
With
he called us. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not sure how that. Did they say anything in English that gives us a hint what that word means in this way? The target was not clear here.
They say for he saw, that's ki ra'ah, ki chalsa, that it would end up badly for him, a love, me'es hamelech, with the king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the ASML with the king, right? You're going to turn out badly with the king. Good. Okay. Right. Let's continue on.
Okay. V'hamelech shav mi gidnas bisan el beis mishtei hayayin Haman nofel al hamita asher Esther aleha vayomer hamelech hagam lich bosh es hamalka imi beves ha-davar yatsa mipi hamelech ufnei Haman chafu. Okay, so the king returned from the garden of the palace to the room of the feast, and Haman had fallen on the bed that Esther was upon. And the king said, also, he's attacking the queen with me in the house. The words went out of the mouth of the king, and the face of Haman fell.
I've got a slightly different emphasis here. So it says here that the king exclaimed, "Would he actually assault the queen while I am in the house? While I'm in the house?" When I read that, I thought, when he's not in the house, it's all right to assault the queen. Anyway, as soon as the king uttered this, they covered Haman's face, because covering the face was the practice of those who were about to be executed. Their faces were covered in Persia.
Right.
And also the king didn't have to see his face again.
Right.
Anyway, so just slightly different, slightly different emphasis.
Right. Very good. Right. So that we went through. Things went from bad to worse.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe in his case, from worse to worse.
Okay. Yeah. It's not over yet, right?
No. No.
Okay. Let's see the next pasuk. There.
We want to continue, Rabbi? It's 9:56.
Yeah. We'll finish this one. We'll finish the parak because they'll just we could come to the end here. That'll be good.
Okay. Vayomer Charvona Echad mi ha-serisim lifnei hamelech gam hine ha'etz asher asa Haman leMardechai asher diber tov al hamelech o made beves Haman gavo cha mishim ama vayomer hamelech Chiluhu alav. So Charbona, one of the king's ministers, said, also, behold, the gallows that was made by Haman for Mordecai, who spoke well concerning the king. It is standing in the house of Haman, 50 cubits high, 50 amos high. Vayomer, and then the king said, hang him on it. Viker?
Yeah, go ahead, right?
Vayitlu es Haman al ha'etz asher heichin le Mordechai the Hamas Hamelech shachacha. They hanged Haman on the gallows that he had made for Mordecai, and the anger of the king cooled down.
Right, subsided, right. Right, so if you remember, just who is this Charvona? I mean, all of a sudden, you have this no mention of Charvona, the whole story of the Megillah. Charvona comes in now, and he says, look, this eights, and that Haman is prepared for Mordecai. How did Charvona know that it was prepared for Mordecai? Right? Seems to know a lot. Right?
It says here that he was one of the attendants that went to summon Mordecai, to summon Haman to the feast. So while he was in the house, he overheard them talking about their plans.
My commentary is stronger. It says, first of all, it says he was one of the 7 ministers. Each one served one day, and this was his day. So he happened to be there. But it says that he was a conspirator with Haman and his close friend. He became friendly with Haman after Vashti was killed. Haman appeared to have given his advice out of concern for the honor of the ministers. But Harbona was also an opportunist. Now that he saw Haman's downfall, he disassociated himself from him completely. So in other words, he knew all about this because he was a conspirator with Haman.
Right. To support his opportunism, it says further here that now that he saw that Haman was on the way down and Mordecai on the way up, he started trying to get into Mordecai's good books.
Right.
So it doesn't seem like he was really such a good guy, and yet don't we have a song where we talk about how great he is?
Tonight we're going to sing after the Megillah, right?
Yeah.
Shoshanas Yaakov. You look there, Zohar Kavana Zecher L'Tov. Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting that we remember him for good when he was really kind of a opportunist who just was picking the winning side.
It doesn't mean you can't do something good.
Don't we have the example of Haran who said, if Abraham comes out of the fire, I'll be on his side, and then Haran was killed.
Right, that's true.
He was an opportunist.
So some say that Ravana was actually Elianavi. It was Elianavi, but he made himself look in the image of Ravana, right? So they asked the question, well, so really Harvana himself, he really wasn't a friendly character towards us, right?
He wasn't even there, apparently, according to this version.
Right. So the question is, and the answer that they give is that why did Elianavi pick of all people to come and impersonate Harvana, and why should he be remembered for Tov if in fact he himself didn't really do anything? So they use this as an example of how the person simply by thinking something that could be used for Tov, right? He'll get credit for that. That if Eli Navi had a choice of appearing of various different people, so because Corona had some type of a good aspect to him, whatever it is that wasn't going into detail, there must have been some good aspect that he had that made it auspicious that Eli Navi would pick his personages to impersonate. Okay, fine. Okay.
Don't we have a principle, Rabbi, that if a non-Jew intends for the good but doesn't succeed, we don't give him credit?
Right. Here's an exception, Pat.
Karmon is not Jewish.
So this is an exception. Why? Because someone, in order to, again, this was done in order that the king should not have any regrets about Haman. That just goes to show how close this situation was, that the king could have had some type of regrets about sparing Haman's life.
Right.
And so what was needed at that point was a final statement that would seal the fate of Haman. So it wouldn't be possible to use a Jew to be the sign Haman's fate, because that was the whole conflict. That was the whole conflict that Achashverosh was having.
Right. Right.
So therefore, it would be only possible to pick a non-Jew. So in this case, the one that was picked was the one who had a good thought. He must have had some good thought about something that Hashem wanted to favor him, and bring the final curtains, so to speak, for Haman down on him.
All right. So
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
let's take a little break. We'll do some halacha in a few minutes.
Are you getting dressed up, Louis? Lou.
Louis.